Yes, guys. What we discussed yesterday. Yesterday we discussed about how to install the Docker and how to pull the images, how to pull the Docker images from the Docker hub to the your Docker server. Right? Yesterday, so we pull the Docker and we run as a container. So we run the Docker image as a container and we saw the a website. Right? The previous what we discussed about so we deployed a application in the data center also. We deployed the Tomcat application in the data center as a VM and we deployed a application in the EC2 AWS and along with so today we discussed yesterday we deployed a so we deployed the application in the container. Guys, understood? So savage. Yeah. So in the data center, guys, the data center. So for example, so this is the data center. So in this data center, we deployed our application. We deployed our application. For example, this is the OVM. In the OVM, we deployed a CentOS 7. So CentOS a 7. For example, so this is the Oracle Virtual Machine or VMware. So install the VMware, then so install the CentOS 7, right? What is that, guys? CentOS 7. In the CentOS 7, so what you installed? You install the installed Java and installed Tomcat. So Tomcat, then you deployed your application, right? So your application is deployed and see it in the browser. See it in the browser, right, guys? So we did or not, guys? So for example, http:// IP address colon 80, right? So lab 6a dot var, right? We already deployed. So this is the a physical one. So this is the a physical server. So for example, this is physical server or a virtualization. Here also, for example, this is the physical server. So in this physical server also you deployed the CentOS 7 and VMware also you deployed the CentOS 7. Same once we deployed, right? So we will see it in the browser. We will see it in the browser same way. So this is physical and virtualization, right? So physical and virtualization. Then in the cloud also. Then in the cloud also. So you deployed a web application in the CentOS 7, right? CentOS 7. So you deployed the application in the virtualization. So that is the physical, for example. So this is the virtualization. So virtualization also. So we deployed the application, right? So here also we deployed the application. So the same way now. So wherever you are, something like you are in the physical server, or you are in the data center VM, or you are in the cloud VM also. So we can install the Docker container and we can deploy our application in the as a container also, right? So what is that, guys? A big innovative thought comes from physical to virtualization, then virtualization to, guys, tell me, then virtualization to what is the what is the right contain So containerization. So here you just so this is our VM. Just install the Docker, install Docker service, Docker daemon. So Docker daemon and deploy your container. Deploy your container. Guys, now you understood? So a big innovative thought from physical server to a virtualization. So virtualization to containerization. Containerization. Guys, understood? So from here to here, the infra will be the infra resources will be very less from physical to virtualization. So virtualization to containerization, it is very less. It is a very less. So what is the Docker architecture, guys?
Dockerfile.
Very good. From the Dockerfile, we can build the
Image.
yes, very good. Build the Docker image. So build the Docker image. Build the Docker image. So for example, so these are the Docker images. You have a Docker images. So from Docker images to guys,
Docker container.
yeah. So run container. So run as a container. Guys, understood? So the very simple Docker container. So Docker container. This is the architecture of the Docker. So where we can store our Docker
Docker
images,
Hub.
guys. Yes, very good. So
Registry.
Docker Hub or Docker registry, Docker Hub or Docker registry. So registry, Docker Hub or Docker registry. In the Docker Hub or Docker registry, so we will pull and push the
Store our
images. Yeah, store our images from the Docker images from here to here. We can push the Docker images and so we can pull
pull.
the Docker
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 images.
images. Guys, understood? Did you guys created the Docker Hub account or not, guys?
Yes, sir.
Created,
Yes, sir.
yeah, very good. Created the Docker. So this is a save. So where we can save the 21st batch Docker Kubernetes Docker 3. Sorry, Docker 4. Yeah, guys, understood, right? Now you understood, right? Yesterday what we did, guys?
We deployed some application on container.
So we deployed the yeah, guys. So from the Docker file, it contains instruction to build the Docker image. So these are the instructions. Then Docker image, it is a package which contains the code, OS and dependencies. Docker registry, it is a repository to store the Docker images. JFrog Nexus also, Artifactory tools. So we can store the Docker images, Docker content. It is a runtime process which runs our application. So once the Docker image is created, then we will pull the Docker image and then we can run the Docker image in the any environment. In the any environment. Guys, understood?
Yes, sir. So this first Dockerfile commands, it will change now, sir. Once again, another example.
Which one?
Dockerfile instructions to build.
I will tell you. So that time you will understand more. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, you already knows, right? Docker info, how Docker info to see the Docker info, to see the Docker images command, pull the hello world Docker image to Docker hello world, pull from. So where we can pull a Docker images to see the Docker images running hello world Docker image, Docker run hello world, display running containers, Docker PS, right? PS-A. We already discussed
Yes.
this one, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we can, how you can remove the Docker images?
Docker rem rm
Yeah, yeah. So how to remove the Docker image? So how to remove the Docker image? What is the command? The command is Docker RMI, remove images and image name or image ID. So what is this, guys? Image
name or
name
id.
or image ID. Image ID to remove the Docker images, right? So remove the Docker images forcefully. How you can remove the Docker images forcefully? So you can remove the Docker images forcefully. Docker RMI hyphen F is nothing
-f.
but yeah, forcefully. So image name or image ID, image name or image ID forcefully. How you can stop the container? How you can stop the container? Docker stop container ID, container ID. So how you can run the container? You can run the by using the Docker
Docker run
run, Docker
container
run.
name.
Yes, Docker run hyphen D is nothing but a detached mode. Okay, so detached mode. So we can run the Docker image, image name or image ID. So how you can run the Docker container? You can run the Docker container by using Docker run hyphen D. So image ID or image name, right? So how you can stop the container? How you can remove the, how you can remove the Docker container? So Docker rm container ID, Docker rm container ID. Guys, understood? So remove all the stopped containers. Remove all the stopped containers plus unused images plus unused unused networks. So what is the command, guys? What is the command? So docker remove, so docker remove or docker system purn hyphen a, it will delete everything, guys. If you use the docker system purn hyphen a, remove all the stopped containers, unused images and unused networks, unused images and unused networks. Guys, understood? So how you can create the Docker Hub account? You already create the Docker Hub account, right? So uh, create a account, in the Docker Hub. So what is that, guys? You guys can use https colon double slash hub.docker.com. So hub.docker.com. You guys create the Docker Hub account. Guys, understood? So Docker Hub account. So now you understood or not, guys? Guys, understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Docker info, Docker pull. So what is a Docker? Docker installation in Linux, Docker architecture, Docker commands. So we already know Docker, from the Docker file we can build the Docker images. From the Docker images we can run the Docker container. So we can push the image to the Docker hub. Right? Now you understood, Now you understood the architecture of the Docker. Right? So Docker installation in Linux. How you can install the Docker, guys? By using yum install docker. So what is the method, guys? Yum install docker. So then you can start the service systemctl docker start everything, and then So Docker architecture, you already know Docker file, Docker image, Docker container. So this is the architecture of the and you also know the Docker commands, Docker images, Docker pull, Docker run, Docker stop, Docker RMI, Docker RMI, Docker RM. So these all are the commands you know, right? The Docker terminology. So Docker commands, now you understood. Docker info, Docker images, Docker pull image name, Docker run image ID, Docker PS. So the Docker terminology, Docker file, Docker image, Docker container, Docker registry, Docker engine, right? So Dockerfile contains instruction to create an image. Dockerfile contains instruction to create an image. It contains the Docker domain specific keywords to build the image. Docker image is a package which contains everything: app code, softwares, environment, libraries. So Docker container is a runtime instance of the Docker image, runtime runtime instance of the Docker container. So instance of the Docker image out application will execute the Docker container. So Docker registry is a place where we can store our Docker images. Docker engine is a software using which we will create a Docker images and a Docker container, which will create a, so Docker engine is the software using which we will create the Docker images and Docker containers. So Docker Hub is a public repository. Everybody can store and retrieve images. Nexus, JFrog, DTR, AWS ECR are the private repositories. So it's a company specific. So my company is using JFrog is the Artifactory. Okay. So you already knows, right? The Docker commands to display the running Docker container PS. To display all the container PS-a. Stop the container, stop Docker container ID. Remove the containers RM-container ID. Remove stopped containers, unused images, Docker system port -a. So now you understood, right? Docker file creation and tag creation. Now you understood, right? How to run the Docker, how to stop the Docker, how to pull the Docker image and how to run the Docker container. Now, right. So from the Docker file, we can create the Docker images. So how you can create the Docker file? Docker file creation and tag creation. So from Ubuntu means, so it will get from the Ubuntu. It will get from the Docker Hub, the repository, Docker Hub repository. So it will get a simple OS image file, OS image, the Docker Ubuntu. Then run echo run one. Echo means print statement. Echo one. Run echo one. Run echo run two. CMD echo from image. CMD echo from image. CMD echo from latest. So run echo run 3, something like this is the some printout. So from the Docker file we can create the Docker image. How you can build the Docker image? Docker build -t image name dot. So dot is nothing but it will verify the where the Docker file is available. If the Docker file is not available in the same directory, you can refer to the where the Docker file is available. So Docker build -t, Docker build -t, my Docker name, my Docker image name dot. So if you want to create a tagging also we will give it. So what is your first image? Docker tag my first image Hare Krishna / my first image. You are giving a image tag. This is the image tag. Image tag. So I will show you guys. I will show you. Right, Docker. So image. So Docker a file. Now you understood, right? Docker file. So in the Docker file, D is the capital letter, guys. So if you create a Docker file, D is the capital letter. So D is the a capital letter. Docker. So Docker file. So Docker file contains a set of instructions. Set of instructions to build a Docker image. Now you understood, guys? Docker file contains a set of instructions to build Docker image. So Docker image in Docker file, in Docker file, we will use we will use DSL. What is that, right? Domain a specific language. In which language you are creating a image, guys? Guys, in which language? Domain a specific
Specific language.
language, DSL. In Dockerfile, we will use DSL language to create the instructions. For the instructions purpose, we can use a DSL language. So domain specific language, domain a specific language. So Docker engine. So Docker engine will read the. So Docker engine will read the Docker file. Will Docker file instructions. Docker file instruction from top to bottom to process. Guys, understood? So Docker engine, if the Docker engine is not running, so from the Docker file to Docker image, we cannot create the Docker images from the Docker file. So definitely the Docker engine will be running. So right, you see guys, so this is the Docker file. So in Docker file, we will use, so in the Docker engine, we will read the Docker file instructions from top to bottom. So top to bottom to process. In Dockerfile, we will use the below keywords. So what are the keywords we are using from run, WORKDIR, add, WORKDIR, run, expose, CMD. So these are the instructions. What are those, guys? What are those instructions? In Dockerfile, Dockerfile D is the caps, guys. In Dockerfile, so we will use a below keywords. So we will use the below keywords. So what is that? One is a from keyword. Two is maintainer keyword. I will tell you guys everything. So two is maintainer. So maintainer. So the third one is copy. So third one is the copy keyword. So the all the keywords. So third one is the copy. The fourth one is fourth one is the add. Fourth one is the add command. Fifth one is fifth one is what is the fifth command, guys? CMD command. What is CMD? Sixth one is entry point. Entry point. Seventh one is ENV. Seventh one is ENV. Eighth one is so CMD from maintainer copy add run command. Also you can use the run command, and the ninth command is arg argument, arg command. So 10th, so the 10th one is the workdir. 11th one is expose. 11th one is expose. 12th one is volume. So 13th one is user. 14th one is 14th one is label. So 14th one is label. So these all are the keywords to use these keywords in the Docker file. Guys, understood? These keywords are using in the Docker file. So what is from, what is maintainer? So what is this one? I will tell you. Right? So what is maintainer? So first I will run this. I will run this command. I will use this. So or else I will tell you later. Okay. So run build. So the first. So from the Docker Ubuntu or run. Yeah, we can create this one, guys. One second. I want to log into the server. Reload. Second, guys. Yeah, Docker server, right? Start the instances. Start the instances. Yeah. So what we did is I will create a Docker file. I will tell you what is run command, what is cmd command later. Just I'm building the Docker image by using the Docker build -t image name dot, right. Then we can push it to the Docker hub. So then pull and run the image, pull and run the image, something like mission 1, mission 2, mission 3, right. Yeah, I will show you this one. Yeah, it started, guys. I want to connect this. So what is the public DNS? 44, right? So this is the one. Restart the session. Duplicate session. New session. Appearance change. Settings 18. Okay. SSH auth credentials dot Samsung open pen EC2 iPhone user want to use the small case letters, right? Restart EC2 iPhone user sudo su. Yeah. So the Docker file, right, guys? Docker images. Docker images cannot connect to the Docker daemon. Yeah. First, we need to run the Docker daemon. Systemctl status Docker is in shutdown state. I want to enable it in the. So if you want to start at the enable systemctl enable Docker and systemctl start Docker. Yeah. Status, it is running, right. So it is running Docker images. So these all are the Docker images, hello world and nginx, right, guys. So from the Docker image, let's see Docker login. So Docker login is for to log in the servers, right, to connect the servers. Docker login username. So what is the username, guys? One second. up.docker.com. I forgot the password, right? Settings. Yeah, username Docker login, guys. The Docker login is username is so Hare Krishna 857. Password is yeah. You see, login succeeded. Now I am able to authenticate the my repository. My repository Docker images. Docker images. Let's yeah, Docker, right? So this is the Docker, right? I am trying to pull this Docker code. Docker pull or Krishna Tomcat dot is Docker pull Hare Krishna Tomcat 9. You see, so I'm able to pull the yesterday it is showing the permission denied because of my login authentication is failed yesterday. That is the reason we are unable to pull the my own repository images, my own images. You see, Docker images. You see the Hare Krishna 857 slash my Tomcat. So I want to I want to run the Docker something like a Docker ps-a. Guys, Docker ps-a. So it is excited, right? I want to delete the Docker containers. Docker rm container id. So you can delete multiple containers at a time, right? Docker ps-a. Docker ps-a. See, there is no containers are not running. So let's check. See, is there any Docker file? Pro. There is no Docker file, right? Let's create a Docker file. Va decaps Docker of file. So Docker file. Yeah, from 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 CentOS. So from CentOS, run command cmd command and run command. Yeah. So what are those, guys? The commands echo colon run 1. Next echo run 2. cmd echo from image echo from image echo 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 from latest so run echo run 3. So run 3, guys. For example, this is my Docker file. I will tell you guys what is run, what is command. So this is my Docker file. So I want to build the Docker image. So how you can build the Docker images, guys? How you can build the Docker images? So by using the Docker build command. So ls. So you have a Docker file, Docker build -t. So what is that, guys? My first image, my first img dot. So dot means so you can create a image, first image from this Docker file. Docker file is nothing but a dot. It's a here only. Yeah, you see. So loading the load build definition of a Docker file, transferring the Docker file to 163 bytes, load metadata. So library CentOS pulled from the CentOS 7, right? So we pulled the CentOS 7. So once it is from pulled the 127, then you can run the echo 1. So echo 2, echo t, exporting to the image, exporting layers, waiting image. So naming Docker ISO image created. My first image is created. Let's check Docker images. Yeah, you see. So my first image is created with 21 231 MB because of, so your Docker file contains nothing but so we are getting the CentOS 7 image, right? So the CentOS 7 is 231 MB. The CentOS 7 is 231 MB. From the Docker image, you can create the from the Docker file you created the Docker images with the help of Docker build command. Docker build command. I want to create a tag. Tag is nothing but to differentiate the versions or images. How you can create a Docker tag. So Docker tag my first image img. So what is that, guys? Hare Krishna 857, right? What is that, guys? My repository name.
Hare Krishna on this.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So Hare Krishna 857. It is coming from the Docker IO, right? Hare Krishna 857. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna 857. 857 slash my first img tag is created. Now Docker images. Docker images, you see, guys. So you created this image from this image. You created a new image, new tagging, right? Created a new tagging with this image. I want to pull this image, guys. So Docker push. I want to push Docker push. What is the image name? This is the image name, guys. Yes, see. So the layer already just pushed my first image. Yeah, you see, guys, this is the first image. Yeah, so this is the my first image updated few seconds ago. So updated few seconds ago. If you want to pull some other servers, you guys just Docker pull, so it will pull automatically. I created the Docker image. So I created the Docker image from the Docker, and then I tagged it to the my repository. So then I pushed it to the remote repository, my Docker Hub repository. Push it to the Docker Hub repository. Guys, understood now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So once we pushed the Docker image, so we created the Docker image, right? Once we push the Docker image to our repository, yeah, we pushed the Docker repository. So Docker push, so the name of the repository. So once you push the Docker repository, so from you can pull it to the servers, you can pull it to the Docker, the target servers, and you can run as a container. So target servers, and you can run as a container. Guys, now you understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Dockerfile creation, Dockerfile contains instruction to build the Docker image. In Dockerfile, we will use the DSL domain specific language keywords. Docker engine will process the Dockerfile instructions from top to bottom. So below are the Dockerfile keywords from maintainer, copy, add, run, cmd, entry point, enable, user, work directory, expose volumes. So from and maintainer keywords. So what is the from and maintainer keywords? So from it indicates the base image to run our application. What is that from, guys? So from it indicates base image to run our application. On top of the base image, on top of the base image, we will create our own image. So on top of the base image, we will create our own image. So from indicates the base image. Base image is CentOS 7 or Amazon Linux or Ubuntu or Sun Solaris, whatever it may be, guys. So from indicates the base image to run our application. On top of the base image, we will create our own image. So on top of the base image, we will create our own image. So what is the syntax, guys? From image name. So from CentOS 7. So what is that, guys? So from CentOS 7 Docker file. So guys, so from CentOS 7. So what is a from? So from is nothing but a, it indicates the base image to run our application. On top of the base image, we will create our own image. So from Java JDK, from Tomcat, from MySQL, right? So maintainer. So what is the maintainer, guys? It represents the who author the Docker files. So who author the Docker files, guys? So Hari author the Docker files. Keyword. So what is the copy keyword? It is used to copy files folders to the image while creating an image. So right, it is used to copy files folders to image while creating an image. It will copy. So copy source and destination. So copying var file from target directory to Tomcat web apps directory, for example. So copy target maven web app.var, user local Tomcat web app maven web app.var. So you are copying from one location to another location, the copy keyword. Okay. So add keyword. So now you understood the from is nothing but a, it indicates the base image from to run our application. On top of the base image, we will create our own image, right? Now you understood. So copy the files and folders to image while creating an image. Copy and source destination. So copying var file from target directory to the web apps folder. Add keyword. Add is also used to copy files to image while creating an image. But add keyword can download file from the remote location. So what is that, guys? Copy and add keywords both are same, but copy keywords will copy the files in the local directory only. But if you want to download the from the remote repository, we can use the add keyword to download the files from the remote location. Add keyword will extract the tar file while copying the image. So add keyword will extract the tar file while copying to the image, right? So it will download the file and it will extract the files. No zip files we have to extract manually, right? So syntax: add source destination, add URL to the destination, add URL to the destination. Guys, interview questions. So what is the difference between copy and add? So add copy command, it will copy the files from one location to another location within the local only. But if you want to download the file from the remote, we can use the add and so untar the files, so tar and extract the files while creating the image. While creating the image, run and cmd commands. What is run command and what is cmd commands? Run, it is used to execute the commands on top of the base image. So what is that, guys? Run command instructions will execute while creating an image. It is used to execute the commands on top of the base image. So on top of the base image is CentOS 7. So on that base image, you can run the commands, whatever the commands you provided, right? Through the run. So run command instructions will execute the creating an image and it will execute the commands. It is used to execute the commands on top of the base image. Example, run mkdir workspace. I want to create a workspace directory. You can use the run command. So run install git. It will be install on creating the image time. So we can create a multiple run instructions. They will execute in the order from top to bottom. So now you understood, right? So we can use the run instructions. We can use the run instructions number of, but it will execute the order one by one. So we can write the multiple run instructions. They will execute in the order from top to bottom. CMD is also used to execute the commands only. Copy and add commands. Copy the files, and add command is to download the files from the remote location and copy it to the lower local location. Downloading and copying. But in the copying, we can only copy the files or directories. But in the add command, we can download it and we can copy it. Run command is to execute the commands. If you want to create a directory, if you want to install the git, we can use it. CMD command is also used to execute the commands. CMD instructions will execute while creating the container, but run command is will execute while creating an image. So it will execute while creating an image. So CMD instructions will execute while creating the container. So in the Docker runtime, it will execute the CMD command, and the Docker build time, it will execute the run command. So run command, so we can write multiple run command instructions, and they will execute in order. CMD is also used to execute the commands. CMD instructions will execute while creating a container. CMD instructions will execute while creating a container. CMD instructions will execute while creating a container. Example, we can write multiple CMD instructions in a Docker file, but the Docker will process only the last CMD instructions. So last CMD instruction, because of it is executing while creating the container. The last command only with the last CMD instruction also will execute. CMD sudo start tomcat. So it will start the tomcat. Note there is no use of writing multiple CMD instructions in one Docker file, because of the only one CMD instructions it will run on creating the container, on running the on creating the on running the running the container. So while creating the image, so we can use multiple run commands. Both run and CMD commands are same. So run command, it will execute the commands, and CMD commands also it will execute the commands. But CMD command will execute only on at the time of Docker runtime, Docker container running time. But the Docker file will execute. So run command will execute on the Docker file while creating the Docker image. So while creating the Docker image, difference between run and CMD. So from Ubuntu or from CentOS 7 Docker file build. So something like while creating the Docker image, download the Git, and while creating the image. So we need to download Git, and we need to download the Git while creating the image. Docker build, Docker image. Right. So I want to run the Docker container, start Tomcat server. So run, so yum install git. But CMD command start Tomcat server. So while creating the container. So while creating the container, we can execute only the last CMD instruction. But the so Docker file, in the Docker file, we can execute any number of Docker run commands. Docker run commands. Now you understood? Entry point keyword. CMD instructions we can override using the runtime CMD. So it will print only the date. CMD will not execute. So Docker run image one date. So we can change the Docker file name. Move Dockerfile 1. How to change the Docker file? By using the move command. So Docker run image date. It will print only the date. So Docker print. So creating a Docker image using the Dockerfile 1, Docker build -f Dockerfile 1 Docker image 2. So right, entry point instructions will execute while creating the container. Entry point instructions will execute while creating the container. So note CMD instructions we can override, where the entry point instructions we cannot override. So, command CMD instructions will override, but entry point instructions we cannot override. Entry point echo welcome to the tech world with Hari. So WORKDIR or env. WORKDIR is used to set the working directory for the image or a container. So WORKDIR directory path. So the Dockerfile instructions which are available after working directory, those instructions will be processing from given working directory. env is nothing but is nothing to use it to set the environment variable. So env key value, WORKDIR directory path. Label and arg. So label will represent the data in the key or value pair. It is used to add metadata for our image. Label branch name release. Arg, it is used to avoid hard-coded values in the Docker file. Arg branch equal to develop. Label branch $branch. Note, we will pass argument value in runtime. Docker build -t image. So Docker build -image -build -arg branch equal to future. Guys, now you understood? Yeah, so user and exposure. User is nothing but we can set user for the image or container. So after use instructions, remaining instructions will be processed with the given user. Expose, it represents on that port number our container is running. Expose is nothing but to represent the port number. It's just like a documentation to understand and to understand the container running port number. So volume, it is used to store the data. So from CentOS 7, I need to run my mission. Run echo run 1, run echo run 2, run echo from run E, run from latest run 3, echo run 3. So to build Docker image, to build the Docker image, Dockerfile is mandatory. So Dockerfile consists of a set of instructions and commands to execute our application. To execute our application. Docker build -t, my first image dot means search for the current location. Ports assigning, guys. So finally ports assigning from the Docker from CentOS 7 Dockerfile to Docker build to image creation. So once image created, then we will discuss about the pricing. Okay, Docker container. Sorry guys. So Docker container. So this from the Docker container to we can use the Docker run image to Docker container. The port number 8080. Expose your Docker container port is 8080 and the EC2 instance port also 8080. Then only we can see the Docker containers. Docker containers. Yeah, guys. So tomorrow we'll show you how to build the Docker image from the Docker instructions and how to push it to the Docker image and how to get from the Docker remote. How to get the Docker image from the Docker remote. Guys, understood? Guys, speak out.
Yes, sir.
Yes, right? So tomorrow we will discuss what we will show. So tomorrow how to create a DSL file and access and how to run it. How to run it we will show you tomorrow, guys. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So once it is done, we'll show you the Docker volumes. Once Docker volumes done, so the Docker container completed, then so we will start the Kubernetes. Docker is very simple, guys. Okay. Is it simple or is it easy or not, guys? Is it simple or not?
Basic is okay, sir, but in depth it will go hard.
We will show you. We will show you in depth. No worries. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.